So I'm recording it now because this is a very interesting thing. Because there's a text in the United States, um, probably not only in the United States, and among Jews, non-Orthodox Jews, a lot. And that's what made me go and look at these things. Um, and as I said, all of these attacks uh, uh, accuse Orthodox Jews in not complying with appropriate policies and being a source of the disease of this virus and all kinds of other things. Um, Now, some accusations, as I said, are true because the number of infected people among Jews and the death rate in France, England, and New York several times higher than for population at large. But that statistic also can be manipulated because when you talk about, for example, in Paris, where there's a large concentration of Jews, and you talk about population at large, then what? You take the whole France to compare? That would not be fair. I mean, if to compare only for Paris, then it would be different. In any case, so let's take a look at what's happening here. And it seems like Israel comes out. Do you see Israel here?
Yeah.
Israel comes out incredibly low death rate. Look at this. Total number of cases in Israel, 12,000. And the number of dead is only 123. Now let's compare it to Netherlands, which actually had a few days ago 11,000 like in Israel, and now it has 27,000, and the number of dead is 2,900. Ray? Ray,
Yes, I'm listening. What? Go on.
are you paying attention or I'm just talking to a wall?
I'm comparing the results of what you're talking about.
Why, did you open it on your computer?
Well, no, I didn't. I'm looking at your picture. I'm writing down. Israel has 123 over 12,046. I want to see what the ratio is.
Well, it's about 1%.
Okay.
And when you take a look at the Netherlands, it's almost
30 is 100.
11%. That is 11 times higher death rate than in Israel.
Okay, well, but
And if you take a look at Sweden,
what do you get? What are you saying that Israel is
just one
more
second.
prepared, or they're more cautious, or what?
No, I'm not saying anything yet. What I'm saying is this: that the New York Times had an article basically accusing Jews of New York, of Borough Park, and others of being sources of this virus,
Okay.
of not complying with the government policies, orders, and things like this, basically being irresponsible. Now, as I said, I know that when I was invited to synagogue for Purim by a personal call from a rabbi, I did not go because I thought it was reckless, because the disease already was spreading at that time, and I did not want to get it.
Okay.
And him inviting me was irresponsible. But the same type of responsibility you find among any religious institution today. I mean, the evangelicals in Texas, calling for thousands of people to come, and pray and things like this. And all kinds of other people are doing all kinds of things. So why single out Jews? And additional problem is that the Orthodox Jews are being attacked by non-Orthodox Jews. We're going to get to it. But right now I'm comparing it country by country. And I find that this is something completely amazing, that in Israel, for 12,000 cases, there's only 123 dead. In Sweden, for the same number of cases, 11,445 in Sweden, there's 1,000 dead. There is 8 times higher death rate in Sweden than in Israel.
Okay.
To me, this is very, very interesting. In Japan, death rate is also somewhat higher than in Israel. I mean,
where's Japan?
All the way at the bottom here.
Wow.
So in Japan, there's
higher death rate.
What is it?
It's a higher death rate, percentage-wise.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're not considering how different countries estimate who is infected, who is not infected, and we do not also look into how they determine the causes of death. Because, for example, a person got infected with this coronavirus but died from heart attack. So do you count it as a part of coronavirus infection, or do you count it as a normal heart attack?
If he was infected, they probably would say it was a result of the...
My understanding is that in the United States that is the case, but I do not know about other countries.
All right.
So I'm not jumping, to the conclusion. I do not know how is it counted in Israel. I'm sure, I think that in Israel it's counted the same way, but maybe not, because the difference is astonishing. For example, in India, the same number of cases and 3 times more dead.
You know what? In India, hold on.
In India, yeah.
India.
In India.
You know what?
And the same thing in Ireland.
That's not accurate. That's not accurate because the population is 1 billion people in India.
But only 11,000 are infected. The disease just began there.
Oh, it just began. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just said that you can't compare India to the rest of the countries. If India just became infected.
Okay, so this is what we looked at here. I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to go back to this thing. So now we're talking, and I want to know, Ray, before I'm going to say it, what was interesting in this forward article was that a lot of Jews, non-Orthodox Jews, were left vicious comments regarding the Orthodox Jews and their culpability, supposed culpability, in spreading this coronavirus. So my question to you is, why do you think it is the case?
Why do I think what is the case?
That many non-Orthodox Jews attack and accuse Orthodox Jews in being irresponsible and spreading the virus.
You're saying that non-Orthodox Jews...
Many, I'm not saying non-Orthodox, I'm saying many non-Orthodox Jews, like you and I.
you're saying some Orthodox Jews are accusing the Orthodox Jews of
No,
being
non-Orthodox Jews, non-Orthodox Jews, people
no,
like you.
right. I'm
Yeah,
not Orthodox. You're
right,
saying that there's some people who are Jewish that are saying that the Orthodox Jews are irresponsible because they're not being careful when it comes to the coronavirus.
right.
Okay, I've never heard that.
But that's what you should have read before instead of doing some work for somebody in Wilmette or Winnetka, whatever it is. I hope that you were gonna look into it.
Well, I'd like to read that article you're talking about. I read the New York Times every morning. I didn't see that article, so.
Okay, what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna let you read the article, and then we're gonna come back after you finish the article, and we're gonna talk.
Okay.
Just 1 second. So, what did you say? You just read it and you made some notes. So, okay, go ahead.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you what my perspective is.
Okay,
My perspective is everybody has a right to their own opinion. And whether I agree with them or not, that's their opinion and they have a right to express it.
that's not what I'm asking about. I'm asking about the attitude that non-Orthodox Jews have, at least those that commented, have exhibited vis-a-vis Orthodox Jews. That's what I'm asking about.
Well, I've had personal experience with it. One Orthodox Jew that really turned me off. Actually, a few of them, but I'm thinking about one. And I'm not going to. He's a rabbi that I used, whose shul I went to for 16 years. You know, I think I went to his shul because I wanted to find out more about him, more about his attitudes about things.
Meaning, you wanted to see if his attitudes match yours.
No, I wanted to find out. I wanted to find out how he was different from me.
So how his attitudes don't match yours.
Well, but I went there for 16 years. I never disputed what he had to say.
Okay.
I wanted to listen and learn.
Okay.
I tried to find out where these thoughts came from.
Just 1 second. During those 16 years that you attended that synagogue, you were trying to do it for 16 years?
Yeah, you know, well, not for the entire time. In the beginning, I wanted to become more religious. I wanted to become more
How
observant.
old were you?
Huh?
How old were you?
Okay, 16 from, or let's say 20 from 70. I was about 58 years old.
Okay, so at 58 years of age, were you married at that time or divorced?
No, I think I had just gotten a divorce.
So you were going through spiritual or emotional.
Well, actually, I joined Chabad because I was looking for some more spirituality in my life.
Okay. Okay.
That was maybe 10 years before I went to the synagogue that I'm talking about.
But you already were divorced, right?
When I first started, I wasn't divorced.
Okay, so when you started, you were married.
Right.
So you decided to see, what is it, what Jews have to do with this thing, right?
No, I was trying to find out what I was missing in my Jewishness.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I just said.
Oh, okay.
What?
It had nothing to do with this rabbi.
I understand. So, but you went to Chabad that particular outfit because it was closer to you, and you
Right.
decided.
He was in Wilmette. This is the first rabbi is not the one that turned me off.
Okay, and
The second rabbi is the
did
one.
not have to pay annual membership dues.
I made contributions. I didn't have to pay annual membership. I made contributions.
So now we know the situation a little bit. Very interesting. Continue.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, the circumstances were that I got a divorce. I was going to this one synagogue, maybe it was 7 years. I decided to get a divorce. And when I came back to Chicago, this rabbi contacted me and asked me to come to his shul because he was always short. He didn't make minions every Friday night and Saturday. So I said, why not?
In
So I
Chicago?
started going.
In Chicago?
Pardon?
Was it in Chicago?
Yeah, in Wilmette.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Suburb of Chicago. Okay.
Chicago, Wilmette. What the hell's the difference? And I was going, and in the beginning, I was trying to learn Hebrew. I was reading the 5 books of Moses. I was reading the Parsha every Shabbos while the rabbi was davening the Parsha. And I never really felt totally a part of the synagogue. But this rabbi intrigued me. There was something about him I didn't like, but I wanted to find out what it was.
I'm listening.
Pardon?
I'm listening.
Okay. So I went there for 16 years. And he would say things that to me didn't sound. He would say things that an educated man, from my perspective, would not say. He had views that I didn't agree with, but I never said a word. Never. Wasn't my position. I was just there to learn Hebrew and become more religious. I tried to be more of a part of the synagogue. I actually built an aron for the Torahs. We rented space in the rec center in Wilmette. Rec center.
I know who you're talking about, and I know where the place is.
Rabbi?
Don't mention names. I mean, it's not. Don't mention his name.
Okay.
It's not important. But I.
Okay. Anyway, I tried to be more a part of the group. I built an aron.
Mm-hmm.
I built a bima for him because before that, they kept the Torah in a cabinet that was really a kitchen cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
We had to. It was put on a dolly. The cabinet was stored on.
Ray, I understand. That's not what we're talking about. I'm interested in your journey and in your assessment of the issue that we're talking about. That is coronavirus, Orthodox Jewish communities, and the reaction on the part of non-Orthodox Jews toward Orthodox Jews as a result.
Well, okay, this writer is entitled to her opinion. First of all, she's writing to get recognition. So she has to have a subject that people will talk about. That's the way I look at it. Whether Haredis follow normal social customs is irrelevant to me. They're following their own rules. Their rabbi tells them what to do, and they follow them. I don't like that because these kind of people are not free thinkers. They have a very shallow view of the world. It's one-sided. That's my perspective. It's one-sided. And I'm not going to argue with him about it.
Okay. So you're not Orthodox Jew because
I'm not what?
you're not an Orthodox Jew.
Right. I'm not an. Well, you know what? I could be if I wanted to be an Orthodox Jew, I could be an Orthodox Jew, but I would find it difficult to follow the regimen or the political thinking, their political thinking.
I understand.
You know, a lot of Orthodox Jews are
But that's
pro.
not what we're talking about, you see? And this is what you are doing now reveals to me a very interesting mindset that is ready to blame Orthodox Jews regardless of the situation.
I'm not, no. Blame them for what?
You are not even talking about coronavirus. You are not even talking about what they actually did or didn't do. You are talking about your attitude toward Orthodox Jews and your place vis-a-vis them.
How am I doing that? What did I say?
Once, we're recording it, so once you're gonna
You want to play it back? Tell me what I said.
afterwards you'll be able to see exactly what you said, what I said, and you will get the overall impression.
Okay.
Now, but this is a very interesting thing for me because that's why I was interested in talking to somebody like you, because my attitude toward Orthodox Jews and toward the situation with coronavirus is very, very different.
Well, I don't know how the two are related.
I do not believe that a backward Jews or backward people or people in straitjacket or people who are just subservient to some rabbi or anything like this. I don't. Quite the opposite. I think that they're a foundation not only for Jewish people, but for the entire world. I'm not one of them for many of the reasons that you mentioned. But by the way, today, right now, all the Orthodox Jews, are trying to celebrate the end of Pesach.
Right.
You are not, and I am not, because I'm not that observant. I am observant, but not that observant. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to do something, especially, for yard site, something like this on my own. But my attitude and why this article and the attitude on the part of many people that not non-Orthodox Jews that have been dealing with Orthodox Jews, why it piqued my interest is because it showed me exactly, the very foundation of anti-Semitism. You do not need to go for anti-Semitism outside of the so-called born Jews, because the anti-Semitic attitudes in all of their varieties is present among us. We, like for example, you decided that you did not want to be Orthodox Jew or whatever it is, whatever type of Jew. In the beginning, you tried to be nice to them, you tried to do something, but then you decided, it's too much headache. It's one thing to build something for them, it's something to do, but then another thing to change your life and to fit into that particular thing is too much problems. I possibly, not possibly, but probably have the same personality in many ways that you do, that is individualistic and not easily fittable into some kind of a group where you cannot question really the foundational beliefs. I like to question things.
Okay. So do I.
I can see it and I appreciate it, but I respect Jews, Orthodox Jews. I think that Without them, there wouldn't be Jewish people. If Torah and Jewish tradition would be placed in the hands of people like you and me, it would disappear in one generation. In
What would
one
disappear?
generation.
Jewishness
The
would disappear.
Torah and tradition and Jewish people would disappear in one generation.
If it was based on, if they depended on you and me,
Yes.
probably. Well,
You see?
we are a product of our upbringing and our
Not
environment.
simply a product. We're a product of upbringing, of history, of place we were born, of the way we grew up, and on and on and on. And we can talk about. I mean, there's so many different Jews with so many different personal experiences and attitudes and everything else. Will all make up the Jewish people, the Jewish nation. By the way, do you know that in the United States there's no Jewish people?
In the United States, there's no Jewish people.
Yeah, officially there's no Jews in the United States.
What do you mean? I don't. What can you define that or tell me what more?
Have you filled out your census form?
What about it? I filled it out. Yeah.
There's place for Russians, for French, for Arabs, for Latinos. There's no place for Jews there.
Russians, French. They're that's nationality.
And Jews are what?
I consider myself an American.
So you're not a Jew, huh?
I didn't say that. I said I consider myself an
You're
American.
not a Jew.
You know what? I just had a thought.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm since we're, you know, the question I'm in my mind is, why do you equate being Jewish as, can there be a Jewish American? Can there be a Russian Jew?
It's up to you. For example, if you ask me, what am I? I'll tell you.
What are you?
I am a Jew born in the Soviet Union who happens to be at this time American citizen.
Okay.
But I am a Jew. I'm a member of a Jewish people.
Well, I'm Jewish too.
In what way?
How do I have to be Jewish?
I do not know. It depends. That's why I'm asking you.
How are you Jewish?
I was born in Jewish family.
Okay.
My mother is
Anything else?
Jewish. My father is Jewish. Was when they were alive. That's what makes me a Jew.
Was he observant? Was he an observant Jew?
No, in the Soviet Union, practically no Jew was observant at the time when I lived. I mean, don't forget that millions of Jews in former Soviet Union were slaughtered during the Holocaust.
Okay.
I mean, in my town in Vinnytsia, before the war, there was about 96,000 people, of which 43,000 were Jews, and 25,000 were murdered. The other 15,000 were able, including my mother, were able to escape. But my grandmother was slaughtered. Others. I mean, and after the war, you know, when we came back, when my mother came back, when my grandfather, who I was lucky to survive, um, rebuild. I cannot say Jewish life. There was no Jewish life. I knew that I was a Jew, and I knew who other people who were Jews, and I was able to tell apart Jews and non-Jews. and there was no. I knew exactly if the guy was a Jew, he was not Russian or Ukrainian or Pole or French or anything like this. He was a Jew. Now, in America, it seems like people like you who were born here, they think of themselves, like you said, American, as if American is a nationality. America is a citizenship. It's nationality vis-a-vis other nations. But within America, there's Americans of Italian descent, blacks, blacks from Nigeria, blacks, offsprings of slaves that were brought here, Latinos, Mexicans, Ecuadorians, they all, if they're Americans, or English, people from England, from Holland, from Sweden, Germany, now, we're all American citizens, but that is not, there's no American ethnicity, but there is Jewish ethnicity. And census that I refer to, that is census, the forms that we are filling out now.
Let me ask you can I ask you a question? Is there a black ethnicity?
Black is ethnicity.
Is there Italian ethnicity?
Absolutely. Ask any Italian.
Do you know any Italian Jews?
I know maybe few, yeah.
I know one.
Who's that?
I knew a Cuban Jew.
Okay. So, but you asked the question.
You know what? I grew up in a non-Jewish neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and I was picked on because I was Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
This neighborhood was predominantly Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
and various.
We already talked about it. I think it was Bridgeview.
Bridgeport.
Yes. This is where my first wife was from.
Yeah. So I didn't know what. First of all, when you're a teenager, that you don't have a lot of I didn't have a lot of self-confidence as a teenager, and I know a lot of people that I was growing up with didn't have a lot of self-confidence, even though they were more part of the group, the ethnicity or the religious aspects of the neighborhood than I was.
Did you know that you were a Jew?
Did I know I was Jewish?
Yeah.
I knew I was Jewish. I went to Hebrew school.
Oh, you did? Because I knew that I was a Jew in the Soviet Union, and I did not know anything about Jews. I remember in 9th grade, that is equivalent to American 11th grade, I came out from classroom, and I see one girl, Natasha, two other girls, Natasha, Russian girl, telling two other Jewish girls, Angela and Asha, about the Jews came from northern Italy. And I'm listening like this, and I'm, damn it, somewhat we do look like Italians. Maybe we did come from northern Italy. And then she tells them, and Jesus was ancient Russian hero.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking, well, maybe Jesus was ancient Russian. I mean, they think that he's a big guy there, so maybe he was ancient Russian hero. Why else Russians would worship him? And this was extent of my knowledge about being a Jew. I knew nothing. I still know very little, but know a little bit more. And the reason I know a little bit more is because there were other Jews somewhere in the world that were in different position than Jews in the Soviet Union that could not read anything about Jews other than Israel is aggressor, Israel is this, Israel is that, Israel is then, and no history of Jews. Jews did not exist. You know, in Soviet textbooks, when they taught about ancient world, and they would show maps of Greece and Assyria and Egypt and Mesopotamia and Rome, and on those maps there was never Israel, never Judea. Jews did not exist in the Soviet Union, other than Zionists that should be condemned.
Well, okay.
Now, but we're talking about now about this situation where, and you didn't, it seems like all those comments, this, you said 15 comments following that article, and I found those comments basically outrageous. And in my mind, they're fully anti-Semitic. Because in my mind, anti-Semite is always the origin of anti-Semitism, is the desire to be a Jew but just not pay the price. Now, the Orthodox Jews have selected for themselves a way of life recognizably Jewish. And they're...
Sorry, hold on. You know, my hearing aid is, I have to get it fixed. Say that again about the Orthodox Jews. What?
Orthodox Jews are the Jews that have selected for themselves a way of life that is recognizably Jewish.
Okay.
For a variety of reasons. Maybe they were born already in that type of family, so this, for them, this is just continuation of their family traditions. Maybe they were about Teshuvah, you know, people that, like you or me, you know, that decided at a certain point in life to get closer to Jewish tradition or whatever it is. And some of them stayed, many of them didn't, whatever, you know, the waves of people is difficult to describe. There's so many of them. But what puzzled me is that how many people reacted to that article. I mean, she described that situation in the article. But what also just puzzled me was how many people commented on the article without any feeling that they are disgusting individuals. Largely because they don't understand their own position.
The people who made the comments didn't understand their own position?
Yeah. Because they think, for example, there's Joe Blow or whatever it is writing about it and says, you know, or like, for example, you say, you know, they're backward and this, talking about Orthodox Jews. I mean, the article was specifically about the corona virus crisis now and the unfavorable write-ups that Orthodox community receives at the hands of New York Times and many other blogs and things like this. And that's why I invited you to talk about it.
Well, I mean, if I'm not getting excited, don't be disappointed. uh,
I'm not disappointed, actually.
huh?
I'm not disappointed.
Okay. You know, um, I've learned a long time ago it's not worth getting uptight about a lot of things. When I was young, I had a revelation when I was about 19 years old.
Okay.
I was in the service, I was stationed in France, and I got into a discussion with a guy who was not Jewish, didn't have much of an education. He came from a rural background. We were both stationed in France.
Mhm.
I got into talking about college courses and college credit. And he said that if he takes one of these non-college courses, he'll get college credit for it.
Okay.
So I said, if you take a non-college course, you won't get college credit. Now, and he's insisting, and he got that he would get college credit. And you know what? I'm saying to myself, why am I talking to this guy? He doesn't know what he's talking about. And at that point in my life, I had a revelation, an epiphany. The epiphany was that the things that my parents taught me were not realistic. They were not worldly. My parents were not worldly people. They were very short-sighted in many ways.
Wow.
Many ways. And
What did your father do?
he had a liquor store in Bridgeport.
And what did your mother do?
She worked in the store with my father.
Okay. So
You know, and
in what way they were short-sighted?
in what way?
Yeah.
In the way they looked at life. They never took vacations. They had few friends. My father had almost no friends. My mother had girlfriends from high school.
Mm-hmm.
My mother grew up on the West Side. I don't know where my father grew up. Well, I think he grew up in Bridgeport, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because the store that was my father's liquor store was originally an A&P in the 1930s,
Okay.
1940s. And my grandfather bought the building. I don't know how he bought it, but he bought it and he forced the A&P out. And he put in groceries. Before that, he drove a wagon with a horse-drawn wagon.
Okay.
And the family lived in the back of the store. And I'm thinking that's where he grew up. You know what? I really don't know. My father never talked about where he grew up. But I do know that at one point we lived in Hyde Park. Well, we lived on the West Side, then we lived in Hyde Park. When we lived in Hyde Park, my grandfather lived close by, and so did my aunt, one of my aunts and my uncles, and some cousins.
Why did you say that your father did not understand life?
His world was a very small world. he never talked about anything. The only thing I know about him is he read the newspaper a lot.
Okay. Is your world a big world?
Is my world a big world?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's bigger than his was.
Wow.
I've traveled halfway around the world, mostly because I was in the Air Force. I lived in California. I lived in Libya. I lived in France. I was in the Congo. I was in Uganda. And then I've done some traveling since then. I've been to Jamaica, the Bahamas. I've been to Costa Rica. My father has never been to the best of my knowledge, he never did that kind of travel. I know he never did any of that. When I was growing up, my father and I went to Colorado and we went to Minnesota. That's, to the best of my knowledge, that's the only traveling that he'd ever done. Also, he and I also drove to California in a car. They gave me a car when I was in the service. I do know my father used to go to South Bend in Indiana or Michigan. A lot of Jewish people used to go there. Some of them used to go there for 3 or 4 weeks in the summer. I know. We never did that.
Oh, it's a nice area.
Yeah. Am I more worldly than my father? My father, to the best of my knowledge, only lived in Chicago.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I have a sister.
Sister. Is she still alive?
Yeah. She's younger than me, yeah.
In any case, so we talked about your father, but what we want to talk about is about your attitude toward Orthodox Jews, and especially how this coronavirus situation.
I don't know how you can relate the two. I mean, if you're talking about social distancing in the Haredi or the Orthodox Jews, that's their choice. If they refuse to accept the facts, we know
They're being accused by non-Orthodox Jews, by some non-Orthodox.
by the author of this article.
No, she's not accusing them. Quite the opposite. She defends them. She describes the accusations coming from other Jews.
There was a doctor that made a comment about it in the article.
It's not only one. There's more that she says. In fact, I'm going to read it to you so you will see what we're talking about. So this doctor, the day after the shopping conversation with her friends, she says she received email from self-described very discouraged Jewish doctor.
Right.
He says that I mentioned my origin and my religion because I don't want this to sound as an anti-Semitic rant. By the way, I don't like the way she spelled anti-Semitic. Should be without dash and one word, anti-Semitic.
Okay.
Because there's no such thing as Semitic or Semitism. By the way, some Orthodox Jewish groups are acting as right down criminal, he says, this doctor. Right down criminal. He went on to call them fanatics, zealots, practitioners of religious apartheid. Now, I'd like to know what's wrong with religious apartheid.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah.
I can't defend it. I mean,
What do you mean you can't defend it? I say that religious apartheid is the norm, is a normal thing.
For the Haredi Jews.
Anybody. That's the difference. It's like, say, I'm against family apartheid. What is family apartheid? I'm married to my wife, and I do not want her to go out with anybody else or any other man to come into her. That is apartheid. It's a separation between what is my family and what is somebody else who has no business in being in my family.
Okay, you know what? When you talk about apartheid, I was thinking about the term being used in South Africa.
Racial apartheid, as the way it was in South Africa, it's one thing. But here he brings that thing, which has a negative connotation, which we all agree with, should be negative, and he uses it in a different phrase, religious apartheid. If there's a Catholics, there should be difference between Catholic and Protestant, or Christians and Jews, or Jews, Christians, and Muslims. They're all separate. Apartheid means apart.
Okay.
It does not mean that we should exploit the majority status or minority status of being in this or that group to disadvantage of others. But I am a Jew, and I'm not Russian, or I'm not Italian, and I'm not Mexican, or white, the way some whites define themselves, or black, the way some blacks define themselves. And he continues on to say, practitioners of religion and special kind of dysfunctional individuals, a special kind of you see, he already found that these Jews are special kind of dysfunctional individuals. And he says, continues on and says, I often think of them as them, never as us, the rest of Jewish community. I do not know what Jewish community he's talking about, but I'm not a member of his Jewish community. And the final phrase in my mind is the bottom line. I think they want to show the rest of us that we're second-class Jews. How that has to do with this coronavirus and their so-called supposedly criminal behavior? How doing it they want to show him that he is a second-class Jew? It's only in his own mind that he is a second class, because he knows it in his heart.
Are you talking about the doctor in this article?
I'm talking about doctor. In any case, so, and then we can go on and on and on and on. And I know that you are in agreement with this doctor. You started being in agreement with this doctor.
Well, you know what? I guess in some respects, I agree with him, but not from the same perspective that he's talking about, that you're talking about. I agree with him in that everybody should be wearing masks. Everybody should be social distancing themselves from others, for the simple reason that by not following these methods or protocols,
Just 1 second.
they're endangering other people's lives and themselves. That's how I agree with him.
I understand. But that's not what he's saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He says that not wearing these masks and congregating in groups makes him feel like second-class Jew. And they do it on purpose.
The doctor feels like he's a second-class Jew?
Yeah. And this is what he says, they do it on purpose. In order to,
What paragraph is that? I'm trying to find it.
you're trying to find it. It's when do you have those passages about a doctor?
I'm trying to find it. I'm reading. There has been a lot of anti-Semitism swirling around this pandemic.
No,
Uh,
right above it. The paragraph above it.
go up or
Yeah.
down?
Where you read there has been a lot of anti-Semitism, the paragraph above.
It has. It was clear this was not just an outbreak. I often think of them as them, never as us. The rest of the Jewish community, the doctor said. I think they want us to show the rest of us that we are second-class Jews. Well, that's the doctor's opinion. Did he ask them?
I'm asking you. It seems like you graduated from some kind of a high school, and you should be able to put two and two together.
Well, my two and two may not necessarily be your two and two.
Oh, there's a difference between two and two, huh?
That's right. Just ask anybody on the street.
Tell me, what is your two and two?
Uh, I think the doctor is a little bit short-sighted. You know what? First of all, I don't know too much about Haredi Jews. I do know that they are isolated socially from the rest of the community.
That is on purpose.
Well, irregardless, but they're isolated. I mean, I think it says later on that they don't take science classes.
Isolated from you and me, but they're not isolated from each other. The
Not from other.
stability among them is much greater than among many other people in this country or any country. They're not asocial. They're highly social people.
Amongst themselves.
That's enough.
Well,
They have large families. They have big communities. Communities in which they have a lot of friends and enemies. And communities that make their life interesting. Community that makes their lives lives.
you make a community that makes their lives what?
Lives.
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 Lies.
Not lies. Lives.
Lives.
Yeah. Because a person is only, besides biology, is only a sum total of all his relationships to other people.
That's true. That would be true. But you know, I'm going to tell you something. I belong to a group of people who've gone through therapy,
Okay.
and in many ways, these people are dysfunctional. They're not Jewish. Well, there's two Jewish people in the group, and the others are not Jewish. And we're all dysfunctional. It's amazing. I mean, there's one guy, he, in the first, I'd say 7 to 8 sessions, he never said one word. He would just come in, sit there. And then he started opening up. There's another guy who wants to get into the theater. but he can't he doesn't feel comfortable socializing with people, or he doesn't really. I don't know what his skills are and why he wants to be in the theater, to be honest with you. There's another guy who is close to my age who can't see farther than the tip of his nose. One of the things, and I'll give you an example. One of the things he's been trying to do is meet people. He continually complains. He tells the very same story at every session he comes to. His stories never change. He talks about meeting people, and immediately he has an opinion about them, these people, and it's always a negative opinion. Finally pulled him aside one day, and he was talking about trying to meet people. I pulled him aside one day and I said, you talk about going to these places, but you never do. Why don't you go and see what happens? So a couple sessions later, he comes in and he says he went to one of the sessions. Now, this guy lives in Morton Grove. The only group meeting that he could find was in Naperville. Naperville.
Well, so a little bit of driving, that's all.
And then one of the women that he talked to said to him, why do you go drive so far? He didn't have an answer. I said, when he told us the story, I said, there's a lot of things going on in Skokie, which is much closer to Morton Grove. And I told him about a group in Evanston.
Okay.
He never went, but he would drive 30 miles or 40 miles. The guy is not, doesn't make sense to me.
Sounds good, but I'm waiting for you to connect this story to the topic of our conversation, to the main topic of our conversation.
Everybody has their own perspective.
Okay.
They're all dysfunctional.
So
and once I realized...
when you say they, you mean all of us, including you and I.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And that is the answer to what?
Well, I understand more about you than you understand about me. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so and I do,
because I've accepted the fact that I'm dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see things when people start talking.
Okay.
I can see where they're coming from. I have a better understanding. Whether I use it to my advantage or to my disadvantage, that's something else.
But what that has to do with the view of Orthodox Jews, and
this doctor has a perspective.
And this doctor, and the topic of our conversation.
This doctor has his perspective. I agree with him, but not necessarily from the same point of view.
What do you mean?
I agree with him. Everybody should be socially distancing themselves from other people. Everybody should be wearing masks. That's my thought.
Okay.
Because I don't want to get sick, and I don't want to make somebody else sick.
Right.
When I finished working in Wilmette today, I went to Mariano's. The first thing I did is I put a mask on and
Okay.
I put gloves on my hands
Okay.
and I walked in. There were a lot of people that weren't wearing gloves. There were a lot of people that weren't wearing masks. You know, why should I feel sorry for them if they get sick?
But that's not what we're talking about.
Well, it is what we're talking about.
People in Marianas were all Jews, Orthodox Jews.
No, they weren't all Orthodox.
But right
Even the Orthodox Jews don't wear masks.
let me remind you what we're talking about. We're talking about the what to me seems like very disgusting attitude on the part of many non-Orthodox Jews toward Orthodox Jews.
How do you know that Orthodox Jews don't have the same attitudes about non-Orthodox Jews?
But I do not care what somebody else thinks about me. I care what I think about them.
Okay, I guess that, you know what, that sounds like that's the bottom line. That's what the truth of the matter is.
When you tell me what somebody else thinks about me, that is of no importance to me unless that thinking is the beginning of some action that may impact me in some way.
Okay, I
But with
understand.
Orthodox Jews, this is not the situation. Here, the guy is just complaining that by doing whatever they do, they make him feel as a second-class Jew. And when you read the comments below that article, this is the problem with all of those commenters.
This is the problem with what?
All those people who commented on this,
Oh, okay.
they all suffer from inferiority complex. All of those non-Orthodox Jews suffer from inferiority complex.
Do Orthodox Jews suffer from inferiority complex?
Non-Orthodox Jews suffer inferiority complex when it comes to Orthodox Jews.
So,
And that's the reason for their anti-Semitic attitude. In your group, you need to bring up the subject and talk to whoever you talk to there about it.
you know, this discussion has really not accomplished much.
Well, I think it accomplished a lot.
What did it accomplish?
Well, I talked to a person who I saw writing things in the comments to this article.
Say that again. You
I said I saw the person, a person, who was writing some of the comments below that article in that forward publication.
you saw the person or you knew the
Yeah,
person?
I see the person now. I guess maybe high school is not something that you graduated from, huh?
High school is not what?
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes, I did.
Good. So now you can understand what I'm saying. In any case, I'm sorry, Ray, that it did not, that it was not of benefit to you. But this discussion was of great benefit to me.
Okay.
So you can, when you go to bed tonight, you can say, wow, I benefit today somebody.
Great. Okay.
In any case, and I hope that you come back next Tuesday. We'll talk about something else. And I
Okay. Oh Jesus, it's 8:30 already.
In any case, so as they say in China, sei gesinnt.
Okay, I'm leaving I'm leaving.
Okay.
Just a minute. Okay. Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Be safe.